This is the 11th story from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones by Paul Reps and Yogen Senzaki. The story of Shunkai. The exquisite Shunkai, whose other name was Suzu, was compelled to marry against her wishes when she was quite young. Later, after this marriage had ended, she attended university where she studied philosophy. To see Shunkai was to fall in love with her. Moreover, wherever she went, she herself fell in love with others. Love was with her at the university and afterwards, and when philosophy did not satisfy her, she visited a temple to learn about Zen. The Zen students fell in love with her. Shunkai's whole life was saturated with love. At last in Kyoto, she became a real student of Zen. Her brothers in the sub-temple of Kennenji praised her sincerity. One of them proved to be a conjugal spirit and assisted her in the mastery of Zen. The abbot of Kennenji, Mokurai, Silent Thunder, was a severe teacher. He kept the precepts himself and expected his priests to do so. In modern Japan, whatever zeal these priests have lost for Buddhism, they seem to have gained for having wives. Mokurai used to take a broom and chase the women away when he found them in any of his temples. But the more wives he swept out, the more they seemed to come back. In one temple, the wife of the head priest became very jealous of Shunkai's earnestness and beauty, and hearing students praise her serious Zen practice made this wife squirm and itch. Finally, she spread a rumor about Shunkai and the young man who was now her friend, and as a consequence, he was expelled and Shunkai was removed from the temple. I may have made the mistake of love, thought Shunkai, but the priest's wife shall not remain in the temple either, if my friend is to be treated so unjustly. Shunkai, the same night, with a can of kerosene, set fire to the 500-year-old temple and burned it to the ground. In the morning, she found herself in the hands of the police. A young lawyer became interested in her and endeavored to make her sentence lighter. "Do not help me," she told him. "I might decide to do something else, which would only imprison me again." At last, a sentence of 7 years was completed, and Shunkai was released from prison, where the 63-year-old warden had also become enamored of her. But now everyone looked upon her as a jailbird. No one would associate with her. Even the Zen people who were supposed to believe in enlightenment in this life and with this body shunned her. Zen, Shunkai found, was one thing, and the followers of Zen quite another. Her relatives would have nothing to do with her. She grew sick and poor and weak. She met a Shinshu priest who taught her the name of the Buddha of love, Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitavu. And in this, Shunkai found some solace and peace of mind. She passed away when she was still exquisitely beautiful and hardly 30 years old. She wrote her own story in a futile endeavor to support herself, and some of it she told to a woman writer. So it reached the Japanese people. Those who rejected Shunkai, those who slandered her and hated her, now read of her life with tears of remorse. This story has the theme of tragedy. It has the theme of mixing up desire, sex, love. It has the confusion of relationship with divine loving kindness. So here is someone in this particular story. Starts out with an arranged marriage. It's very common in those days. Beautiful, attractive person. The second noble truth of Buddhism says that if we are clinging to things, there is suffering there. So it sounds like a beautiful, attractive person that many people were trying to cling to, connect with. There's suffering there. If we mistake romantic love for the deep love of the heart, there's lots of suffering there. Romantic love is wonderful. I've been married for 35 years. But that is not the kind of love that sustains us through tragedies and disasters. In the same way that the loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy can sustain us. So here's a young woman who was looking for love, who loved what people were looking for her for love, who was engaged in relationships back and forth, thinking that a relationship would be skillful, a relationship would be the way to happiness. She ended up in a monastery or a temple, a training temple. She violated the rules, or she was at least a co-participant in breaking the rules. One of the people in the temple became very jealous and used those as excuses to get her expelled, and she became enraged. Now, we know that the fact that she became enraged, that she became resentful, that she became jealous, the fact that she wanted to get even, that says something right there about the depth of her practice. And that says something right there about the kind of love that she was understood. She burnt one of the outbuildings, I assume, of a very old Japanese temple. It's Kaninji. Kaninji is one of the largest and oldest temples in Japan, so it has many, many structures in it. So she probably burned one of the sub-temples down. That's not an act of loving kindness. So here is somebody who mistook love, mistook relationship for loving kindness, who suddenly was betrayed, felt anger, resentment, hatred, got even, and really was probably shocked at what she found in herself. She served 7 years in prison. And I'm sure that if she had studied philosophy, she'd studied Zen, she was a person of some intelligence, she probably reflected very deeply on her life. When she came out, she found Amida Buddha, the Buddha of the Western Pure Land, the Buddha of loving kindness. And she began chanting, Namo Amida Butsudo. I place my faith in Amida Buddha. And with this kind of transcendental practice, she actually found some respite, found some solace, found some ease, perhaps found a transcendental love. But karma is real. So while she may have had a state of mind that now knew something about true love, the karmic results of her actions previously resulted in poverty. Possibly disease, an early death. So true practice is about true loving kindness. And true loving kindness is to take everything that comes to us and turn it into wisdom. To take everything that comes to us as a call from the universe to bring forth the very best in us to meet it. And sometimes we have very big challenges. To not do that to not meet our particular challenges with as much skill and in clarity of intention is to go off. And then all those unresolved, unseen parts of ourself have the ability to fulminate, to burgeon. Continuous practice of loving kindness. The continuous practice of loving kindness. May we all engage in the continuous practice of loving kindness.